I never wanted to go back to that house, but when my mother passed away, I had no choice, and the moment I stepped inside, the air felt heavy, like the walls were holding a secret, and maybe they were because my father had built this house before he disappeared. And no one ever found him, and I was only 6 when it happened, and I barely remembered him, just flashes of his deep voice and strong hands. But my mother never spoke about him, and every time I asked, she would change the subject or tell me he was gone, and now that she was gone too, I was alone, and I had questions that no one could answer, and the house smelled of dust and old wood, and every floorboard creaked under my feet as I walked through the empty rooms. But when I reached the basement door, I stopped because I had never been allowed inside when I was a child, and I remembered how my mother used to lock it every night, even though she never explained why, and my heart started beating faster as I turned the doorknob, half expecting it to be locked, but it wasn't, and when I pushed the door open, a cold draft hit my face, making me shiver, and the stairs were steep and narrow, leading down into darkness, but I grabbed a flashlight and took slow steps, feeling my stomach twist with unease because something didn't feel right, and when I reached the bottom, I saw nothing but old furniture covered in white sheets, dusty boxes stacked against the walls, and a heavy silence that made my skin crawl, and I walked around, running my fingers over the boxes, wondering what secrets my mother had hidden, and that's when I noticed it, the small metal handle on the floor, half hidden under an old rug, and my breath caught in my throat because it looked like a trapdoor. Something I had never seen before, and I hesitated, but my curiosity was stronger than my fear, so I grabbed the handle and pulled, feeling the wood resist for a moment before it creaked open, revealing a dark hole beneath the basement floor and a ladder leading down into even deeper darkness, and my hands were shaking as I aimed my flashlight down, my heart pounding in my chest. But what I saw made my blood turn cold. There was another room down there, hidden under the house, with a small bed, a wooden chair, and chains bolted to the wall, and my stomach twisted as I stepped onto the ladder, climbing down into the secret space, my mind racing with 100 questions. But the air down here was different, thick and musty, and it smelled like something had been trapped for a long time, and I moved the flashlight around, my heart hammering against my ribs, and that's when I saw the message, scratched into the wall with something sharp, the letters uneven but clear enough to make my breath stop. It said, "Help me," and my throat went dry, my legs felt weak, and suddenly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be here anymore, but I had to know the truth, so I opened one of the old boxes stacked in the corner, and inside, I found something that made my skin crawl: children's clothes, small shoes, old toys, and a notebook filled with drawings, but not happy ones, because these were pictures of a dark room, a bed with chains, and a tall figure standing in the doorway. And my hands trembled as I turned the pages, and then I saw the last drawing, a face with hollow eyes and a wide, twisted smile, and underneath, written in shaky letters, were the words, "He lives under the house," and my breath caught in my throat, and suddenly the silence around me felt deafening, like the house itself was holding its breath, and that's when I heard it, a soft sound, like a whisper, coming from the shadows in the corner of the room, and I turned my flashlight quickly, but there was nothing there. Just darkness stretching beyond the edges of the light. But then I heard it again, closer this time, a slow, shallow breath, like someone was hiding just out of sight, and my chest tightened. My fingers gripped the flashlight so hard they ached, and I took a step back, my mind screaming at me to run, but my feet wouldn't move. And then the whispering stopped, and the silence was worse than the sound, thick and heavy, pressing against my ears. And I could feel my own heartbeat pounding against my ribs. But just as I was about to turn and climb back up the ladder, something moved in the darkness, a shape shifting in the shadows, something tall, too tall, with long, thin limbs and a face that wasn't quite human. And before I could even scream, I saw its eyes, two hollow black pits staring straight at me, unblinking, empty and endless, and my body locked up, my breath hitched in my throat, and then it moved, stepping forward with slow, deliberate motions, its bony fingers twitching as it reached toward me. And that's when I found my voice, and I turned and climbed the ladder so fast my hand slipped, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. And as I reached the top, I slammed the trapdoor shut, my hands shaking as I scrambled to push the heavy boxes over it, my entire body trembling with fear. But then I heard it, the scratching, slow, deliberate, coming from beneath the floor, followed by a soft, whispering voice that sent chills down my spine. "You found me," and my breath hitched, my vision blurred with panic, and I ran up the basement stairs, out of the house, into the night, my legs barely carrying me as I reached my car and fumbled for the keys. But before I could even start the engine, I looked up and saw something that made my blood turn to ice. The front door was open, wide open, and standing there, in the doorway, was a tall, thin figure with hollow eyes and a wide, twisted smile, and I don't remember screaming. I don't remember how I got away. All I know is that I drove, as fast as I could, without looking back, without stopping, and I never returned to that house again. But even now, even in my new home, far away from that cursed place, I still hear it. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, when everything is quiet, the scratching, the whispering, and the voice, so soft, so close, "You found me." And then one night, I woke up in bed, my heart pounding, sweat dripping down my face. And I told myself it was just a nightmare, just my mind playing tricks on me. But when I turned my head, I saw it standing in the corner of my bedroom, the tall, thin figure, smiling, waiting, whispering, "You can't run."